Hello, Mom and Dad Meet World, kinda. So today we are doing our spark plugs and ignition coils on our 2007 Honda Fit. So this did help quite a bit with power and gas mileage and was relatively painless. So what you are going to need are obviously the spark plugs, the ignition coils, anti-seize, and some dielectric gel. And then what we did use, we used a 1/2 inch ratchet along with a 5/8 inch spark plug socket and a 10 millimeter for removing the ignition coil bolts. We also did use a couple different extensions and adapters to go from 1/2 inch to 3/8 inch, but you will see in the video. Thanks for watching.
Hey everybody, welcome to Mom and Dad Meet World meets 2007 Honda Fit Sport spark plug and ignition coil wire tune-up day. My car started missing. I'm at 196,000 miles, and so we're going to do the tune-up. And I want to share with you the parts that we're going to put in it, because we've done this before. We're going to start with the NGK Iridium spark plugs. That's what the OE original manufacturer recommends. The Iridium spark plugs literally last for almost 100,000 miles or so, because they're coated, so you don't need to gap them. Don't put a gapping tool in there. It scrapes off the iridium coating. We went ahead and got the Duralast ignition coil pack from AutoZone. You can get the OE ones at Honda. They're about 4 times the cost, which is pretty spendy, but you do this once every 100,000 miles, so, you know, put the money in your car. We're going to use anti-seize on the threads of the spark plug before we reinstall them in the car, because they're going to be in a hot engine block for 100,000 miles, and we don't want to strip our threads getting our plugs back out at the next tune-up. And we're going to use spark plug boot protector. It's a conductive gel that goes from the end of this to the end of our coil wire that we'll show you when we do it. But it basically keeps the corrosion down and the arcing down, and so you don't get misfires and such on your car. The coil packs actually come off with a 10 millimeter socket, and I've actually got an adapter because I'm using my big heavy duty ratchet and socket combo, and the spark plug remover is a 5/8. So you're gonna need a 5/8 spark plug remover, a 10 millimeter ratchet, socket, and gloves. And it probably will take you less than an hour, probably less than 30 minutes once you get going on this. So the ignition coil wires to your 2007 Honda Fit are actually to the back, and they just have a 10 millimeter bolt holding them in, and then a plug that unplugs right here. So you're just going to reach around by hand until you find your bolt. Mine's down here a little bit. Actually, I lied. It's on this side, the right side of it, in towards the engine compartment. Turn it up, spin it. I'm going to actually take my ratchet off so that I can make sure as I loosen it by hand, that I don't drop the bolt into my engine compartment. My gloves are a little oversized for me because I'm not a smallest, so I don't want to be dropping things into my engine compartment because that's frustrating. So there's the first bolt out. Now, I'm going to show you guys what it looks like. Just lift this bad boy up, wiggle it off. There's the first socket out. I'm going to push this little blue tab right here down, and it pops right loose. So here's my number one out. And now I'm going to get my spark plug wrench on, and I'm going to do one plug and one wire combo at a time. It's what my dad taught me to do very first car, because you don't want to cross your wires over, and it's just easiest with this car as well. So I actually grabbed an extension for my spark plug ratchet so that I could drop that down in here, get it on. Once you're sure it's on there, you can't mistake it for being on or off. Push it on by hand. Just gonna find that it pops loose pretty good. You want to make sure you don't rock too much once you're getting it loose, because the last thing you want to do is damage your threads bringing it out. You'll notice ours came out pretty easily. I didn't have to apply too much pressure. It wasn't loose, but it was tight. Because we put anti-seize on when we put the last ones in, which was actually 120,000 miles ago, because we did the last tune-up at 80,000 miles right before we took it to Honda for some other maintenance, not knowing that things last a long time. So I got it to the point to where it was just spinning. I'm just taking it out by hand now. I'll show you what my old one looks like in the next few seconds here. Bear with me, guys and gals. So there is an NGK. Sorry, my boot sleeve for my spark plug wrench came out. But there is an old plug, and if you look at the ends, it's burnt pretty good. It's got some carbon buildup, but when you consider how long this thing was in my car, I am thoroughly impressed. So I'm gonna put that bad boy right there. So I've got my anti-seize lubricant, and I'm just gonna squeeze a very little amount here. Not, if you guys can see, I'm just literally putting a little bit amount. I'm gonna use my glove and just spread it through to where there's some on all the threads, and then as I tighten my spark plug, it's going to actually thread up into the cylinder. So now I'm just going to put this back into my spark plug wrench and drop it back into the hole, and I'm going to start it by hand. Never start it with your socket, because you want to make sure you feel that you're actually threading it right. Last thing you want to do, everybody, is the very last thing you want to do is cross thread your spark plugs. So dropping it down in there, just going to spin it the opposite direction that I used to pull it out. And then once I get it all the way tightened by hand to where I can't get no more on it, and I'll put my ratchet on it, give it a good snug up, somewhere between a half and a quarter turn after it stops spinning for me. Because you want to make sure it's not going to back out when it vibrates. The car is in motion. What you do not want is to, that's not turning no more. Put my ratchet on tighten. So now I'm starting to apply pressure. Give it a good snug, and that's all I'm going to put on it, you guys, because a lot of cars have aluminum heads, and the last thing you want to do is strip out your spark plug. So get it snug, get it tight, get it snug, but don't over tighten it. So now we're going to put that new coil wire back on there. So I just laid out all four of the new coil wire packs, and they're all the same angle, same plug, so you can't get them wrong, unlike wires of old where you had to match the lengths. But I just wanted to lay them all out and double check. I'm gonna drop my old one back in the box so I know it's the old one, and then I'm gonna grab some boot grease here. Find the tear point on this. It's supposed to be across the top, but it doesn't look like it's torn or split very well for me. And I'm just going to squeeze it out. Squeeze it in. So you're just going to put about a half a tube. That's what I usually do. Get a good conductive amount. That's why you see I got a couple packs. Put it in there. And all of them, it's going to squeeze out around it. You're going to have a little extra coming out. It's not going to hurt anything. I just, I want to make sure that my spark plugs have a good connection to the electronic boot, because the last thing you want is something as simple as, you know, the cold air and the corrosion of the weather climate that you're living in to affect the performance of your car, when you could have done something simple like spend $1 or $2 on boot grease and help prevent that. So get them all done up so that when I go to install them, I just grab them, go on autopilot. So there we go, those are all done up. And now that I've got that the first spark plug in, I'm just going to reinstall this coil. I'm gonna plug it in first, clip it down, push it down into the socket. You're gonna feel it go down over top of your spark plug. All right, so you'll see I'm gonna push this down and I'm gonna screw this bolt by hand. Again, don't use your ratchet. You could put the 10mm on there by hand if you need like some leverage. Just don't use your ratchet first.
Putting the bolt over the spark plug coil.
Yep. And getting it all the way down till it's down by hand. And so spark plugs and wires, ignitions, when we used to do them on my older Hondas, my mid-90s with cap and rotors, you really would feel them click over and stay cemented. With these, you don't. It's kind of springy and splishy and makes me feel like I'm not doing it right. But that's in. And let me show you what I'm talking about here with my old one here, you guys. So, see this? My old one. This is my old one. They butt up against each other. You see it pop out. It doesn't actually clip on. So, when I put that in the car, like this, I pushed it down and hand tightened it. But you heard it pop loose, but yet it's not. It's just springing out. So when you're pushing those down and tightening them up, you guys, you're doing it the right way. It just feels weird if you're used to working on older automobiles versus a newer automobile. So now I'm gonna get my socket back set up. Back on here. Tighten that bolt up the rest of the way. Once I get it good and snug, good snug turn, call it a day. So there's number one done. Now I'm gonna move over here to number two and literally do the exact same thing in reverse. So it's got a little dark out here on us. And what I will tell you is smaller hands, bigger hands, there's actually plenty of room to work towards the back, but you gotta take your time and be patient. You want to make sure your engine cools off before you start this. I should have mentioned that at the start. This car has been sitting for like 6 hours plus. And so additionally to that, you want to make sure that you take your time getting it out and take your time getting it in so you don't cross thread anything, which I know I mentioned before, but our last spark plug, the fourth one over closest to the driver's side, was really tight coming out. So we used a lot, okay, maybe not a lot, but a generous serving of anti-seize putting it back in, because the corrosion and the carbon buildup on that last plug when we pulled it out, it was just, it was a lot actually. So 4 of these and 4 spark plugs, 4 bolts, 4 socket removals. Honestly, I think our run time on this was 40 minutes, including shooting the video and finding our parts and tools and everything. Not a big deal, definitely not something I'd go spend hundreds of dollars at the shop for if you're even a little bit handy.